Hello, I am Marie Contreras. For the last 20 years, I have been a vintage and antique collectibles reseller on eBay. For the last 5 years, I have run my own pet care business. I write a weekly blog about pet care, and I recently wrote my first book about caring for dogs. I make videos on this channel about growing a small business, saving money, and living life on your own terms. If this sounds like something you would enjoy, stick around. I hope you enjoy what I created for you. In today's video, I will share my story about how I was able to grow a small business and free myself from working for other people. I have had challenges along the way. I want to share a little about my motivation and goals for the future with you. I have been working hard for other people most of my life. I always yearned to be my own boss. I don't know why, but I did. I tried and failed a few times. In my 20s and 30s, I was a young mom of 2 children. I started working in manufacturing plants, doing inside sales. I really wanted to be a stay-home mom, but I could never afford to stay home for more than a few years at a time. During my stay-home mom years, I offered childcare to other working moms, decorated cakes, and even dressed as a clown and a tiger for a local realtor, waving people into the housing tracts, showing them where the homes for sale were. At 30 years old, I started selling cars, which was petrifying to me, but I did it. And I went through a divorce. I remarried a few years later, and I took a few years off to be a wife and mother, which I loved. During this stay-home period, I started buying and reselling antiques and collectibles. I rented a booth in an antique mall and another space at a flea market. I would attend auctions on the weekend and scour estate sales and thrift stores for unusual finds. I was having a lot of fun, but I wasn't making a lot of sales. The fees and the rent for the antique booths and the flea market spaces ate up whatever I sold, so I really wasn't netting a profit. I did clip coupons like it was an Olympic event during this time too. The kids were teenagers now, and it was time for me to go back to work. I was in my 40s. I continued in the auto industry as a finance manager, and I didn't have time for auctions or antiques anymore. During this time, when I was back in the car business, I was working far too many hours. My second husband found other activities and people to share his time with, and I went through my second divorce. I made a respectable income in the auto industry for 20 years, give or take, accounting for the time that I stayed home as a mom. The price that I paid was missing most of the birthdays, all of the soccer games, and of course 2 failed marriages. It was common to work 60 hours or more per week. It was a male-dominated industry, and I often felt out of place. I was grateful for the income because it was great, but I never enjoyed the work. But to reward myself for working so hard, I spent too much, often on credit. By the time I turned 50, I was sick of the hours and the drudgery of it. I was also sick of office politics and backstabbing, which was part of the last dealership where I worked. There was one other finance manager that was getting under my skin. The funny part was that he got in trouble for all of his underhanded tactics. But when the dealership traffic slowed, I was the one that they let go. But I wasn't even sad about it. I was free. I didn't want another finance job. I was sick of it at this point. And I had probably done it for several years past when I should have quit. But I had been saving money because I knew I wanted to get out of it, and I knew I would need some savings. So I had been saving every penny that I could and paying down my credit cards as fast as I could. This was my chance to try something else and to be free. I want to be able to take care of myself and spend time with my family. I want to go on vacations with my friends and my kids and my grandkids. I want to be a good grandmother. I wasn't the best mother, I know that. I want to do better. I have always been a hard worker, so that part doesn't scare me. I want to build something for myself. I don't need to be rich. I want to have enough to take care of myself, have a little fun, spend time with people I love, and not be a burden on my kids when I get older. I started with things that would bring in cash quickly, while I figured out what I could do that I would enjoy. I drove for Uber. Uber was brand new at this time, in my area anyway. I enjoyed it when I lived in Arkansas and Texas. I liked talking to the passengers. I liked that I could turn the app on and off when I wanted to work or not. I could take time off if I wanted to, or I could work, and I could do it 24 hours a day. I would get up extra early to pick up the airport trips and hang out near hotels because that's where the business travelers were. And I could knock out a few business trips to the airport, and those were long trips, so they paid well. And then I could take the rest of the afternoon off if I wanted to. And I could turn it on again later at night. I didn't usually work the evenings because I didn't like the drunks in the car, but I liked the early morning shifts going to the airport. I was able to cover my expenses with Uber, and then I signed up for Rover and I started boarding dogs. Every single dog that came for a boarding gig peed in my house. Every single one. Didn't matter how well behaved they were at home, they were going to pee at my house. Most wouldn't eat the first day because of the stress. This was 2016 now, the Frisco, Texas area is where I lived, and the pet care market there needed boarding, not dog walking at all, and very little pet sitting. But I started with boarding because that's what I could do, and taking care of dogs is easy. It's kind of where my passion lies nowadays, but I loved it. I've always loved dogs. I was able to cover my expenses with Uber and Rover. WAG wasn't available yet. It wasn't working in Frisco. But towards the end of 2016, my mother needed help in Los Angeles. She was becoming exhausted and feeling hopeless, caring for my grandmother, who had dementia. My mother was overwhelmed with her responsibilities. She needed another set of hands, and she needed financial support as well. She didn't ask for help, but she was suffering, and I knew she needed help as soon as possible. So I made plans to move home and to help my mom. I sold everything that I could, and I drove out to LA. Around the time I moved back to Los Angeles, drivers for Uber had been attacked in Los Angeles. My mom was terrified that I was going to get hurt. So that was the end of my driving gig. But I knew I could still take care of pets. And so I was exploring that, and I was trying to create a pet care business. I enjoyed it. Boarding wasn't going to work, wasn't going to be logistically possible while living at my mom's little condo. I mean, I slept on the couch for the first year. There was just no room here. Fortunately, in Los Angeles, pet sitting and dog walking were in high demand. My first client wanted regular pet sitting while traveling on business trips for his pit bull, who had separation anxiety. And I loved her. She was an adorable dog. I made small but full-time income from taking care of her for the first 7 months of my pet care business. Pet sitting allowed me a lot of free time while I was at the client's home. So during my quiet time, I started a blog about pets and worked on my pet care website. I read everything I could about marketing, starting a business, dogs, and dog behavior. I started volunteering at the local rescue, and I learned a lot about dogs there. I took online courses, I set up my business entity, and I got insurance. I watched so much YouTube. Did I mention that this client didn't have a television? I would bring my laptop and write, study, plot, and plan every time, and I was there all the time. But unbeknownst to me, other sad events were looming around the corner that changed my business course again. Mom was diagnosed with lung cancer in November of 2017. I couldn't spend nights away from home anymore. I needed to take her to doctor's appointments, and I needed to find a nursing home for my grandmother, who needed full-time monitoring and care at this point. If you have a family member with dementia or Alzheimer's, my heart goes out to you. No one can fully comprehend how much these diseases steal from their victims. So I switched from pet sitting to dog walking and drop-in visits. I did a lot of on-demand walks with WAG that year. I wasn't focused on marketing or promoting my own business. That went to the back burner. The WAG Walker app allowed me to pick up the random dog walks almost exactly like I had picked up passengers on the Uber app. They took a big percentage of the cut, but they made up for it in volume. I could turn the app off when I had to help my mom, and I could turn it back on when she was home resting, and it didn't bother the customers because they weren't regular customers, most of them, until later. Walking dogs and visiting cats was a welcome and much-needed mental and physical break in my day, from dealing with cancer eating away at my mother and dementia robbing my grandmother of not only her memories and personality, but her mobility. The majority of the customers that I gained that year, I still have. Because of their graciousness and understanding, I continued working. I could still be with my mom through all her doctor's appointments, chemotherapy, and other treatments at the end of her life. Mom and Grandma both passed away in 2018. 3 months apart. Much of 2018 is a blur from a business standpoint. But when the grief started to clear and I looked around, I had a pet care business covering my expenses and paying the balance on the mortgage for the condo that I inherited. Money was tight, but I was making it each month. I also inherited many knickknacks and boxes of movie memorabilia when Mom and Grandma passed that neither my brother nor my sister wanted. Minimalism was not popular with Mom or Grandma's generations, so it was time to fire up eBay again in January of 2019. I don't love eBay like I love dog walking, but when you have as much clutter and junk to get rid of as I do, it comes in handy. And until the inventory is sold, I will continue with eBay. I enjoyed selling more before the pandemic hit, and I haven't really sourced in person for eBay inventory since March of 2020. I've been sourcing things online here and there, but really not much though. And yet I still sell things every week. I also use eBay to sell things when I declutter. Once you get items listed, it's almost passive. I still have to answer questions and pack things up to ship, but I have streamlined the process as much as possible. So that goes pretty quickly. One of the things that I am changing in my eBay store, if I continue to do it, is the size of my inventory items. Between the amount of space that large items take up for storage and the cost of shipping large items, it doesn't make sense for me anymore. And customers just complain about the shipping costs anyway, so I'm not going to do big things anymore. I often analyze my business processes and strategies to determine how I can make improvements, and this is one of them. Also, during the pandemic, it was nice to have more than one source of income. Many of my dog walking clients started working from home, but people were still shopping on eBay. I recommend having multiple sources of income, something I seldom had when working as an employee. I love the idea of passive income. Who doesn't? It sounds so easy, but I do love seeing the dogs every day. I know that getting paid to take walks in the beautiful California weather with happy dogs has helped me cope with the grief of losing these important women that meant the world to me. I don't know what I will end up doing next. I often daydream about living in a van, traveling from national forest to national forest, or family member to family member, friends to friends, with my dogs. At the same time, I dream of earning money passively by filming my adventures, or writing about them, or both. Maybe I'll become a best-selling author. I'll never know if I don't try. So I keep trying. But for now, I'm going to enjoy what I do. I get paid to play with puppies and dogs. I write for fun and entertainment. If I want to take a nap in between dog walks, I can do that. But I'm usually having too much fun working on my next project to sleep. I realize that I won't be able to walk dogs forever, but along the way, I have paid off all of my debts except my mortgage. The balance on my mortgage is small and it only has a few years left. I have saved some money for retirement. It's not a lot, but I've got some savings. And I've got a little nest egg, and I'm going to grow it. And I'm going to share my tips on how to grow it with you. Maybe one day I will sell this condo in this crazy, beautiful city, overpriced, crazy, beautiful city, and move to my dream, a 5-acre remote property on a lake with an off-grid small cabin and a flat, sunny area to grow my own vegetables. That just sounds so lovely to me, but not today. I have dogs to play with today. If you enjoyed this video, nudge the like button. If you would like to see more like this, consider subscribing. If you would like to read the blog or check out my new book, I'm going to leave links to them in the description. Thank you for watching. Work hard and dream big. Bye till next time.